Ladies and gentlemen, viewers all over the world, my name is Martin Petigo, and once again today we have political affairs, and we are streaming live from Pennsylvania, United States of America. And I know in Ghana or in Nigeria, it should be almost 10 p.m. or 9 p.m. in Nigeria, and in Ghana, it should be 8 p.m. All right. Today's topic is all about elections, the recent elections that took place in Nigeria. A peep into Africans' democracy through the 2023 Nigerian election. On our political affairs program this evening, we are cross-bordering to Nigeria. Africa's biggest election happened a week ago. The country's Independent National Election Commission, INEC, announced Bola Tinubu Ahmed as president-elect of Nigeria. However, a number of concerns have been raised by elections observers, political parties, citizens, as well as losing candidates, including Atiku Abubakar of the People's Democratic Party and Peter Obi of the Labour Party. Both Atiku and Peter Obi says they are going to court. Let's take a few minutes and then listen to Atiku.
Please be assured that Dati and I, and indeed all of us, this is not the end, but the beginning of the journey for a birth of new Nigeria. Dati Ahmed and I remain absolutely undaunted and deeply committed to the project of a new Nigeria that will be built on honesty, transparency, fairness, justice, equity. All the above starts with the process. The process through which people come into office is far more fundamental, more important than what they do thereafter. That if you must answer His Excellency, the process through which you arrive to office must be excellent. We must now require that we do the right things in order to generate the required confidence and moral authority to lead. As you know, the destruction of a society begins and gradually progress when we act rascally, with deliberate manipulation of the rule of law and suppression of the will of the people. During my campaign process, I would say that we will govern by the rule of law, because we know what not doing that will bring about. And that's why we insisted that. Let me reiterate and assure you that good people of Nigeria that will explore all legal and peaceful option to reclaim our mandates. We won the election and we'll prove it to Nigerians.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was Peter Obi's press conference. That was Peter Obi's press. But many Nigerians doubt if the country's Supreme Court will be able to deliver justice. A staunch supporter of Peter Obi, Aisha Yesufu, posted this message on her Twitter handle, encouraging followers of Peter Obi to have faith in the country and then also in the judiciary system. Let's listen to our sister.
Hello, everyone. How are you? How is everything? I'm sure are you upbeat for the fight ahead? We have a legal fight ahead. Fight to get our mandate back, and we're going to do it. I see a lot of people who have been saying one thing about, oh, the courts, they control the courts, they control the courts. And the people are saying, oh, you can't get your mandate there, it's not possible, they're trying to give up. They do not control the courts. They want you to believe they control the court. So it's an illusion. I'm telling you, it was the same thing with Lagos. Many people believe that Tinubu could not be defeated in Lagos. Many people, in short, anybody you talk to, they will tell you when we were doing that, we say, look, we have me for all the state. Lagos was the one I knew we had in the back more than anything. And people will say, no, it's not possible. The only reason why it was possible for them to keep a hold of that Lagos was simply because that people believed he had the power. It was an illusion. And so, because people believed that he had the power, he controlled Lagos, they didn't bother to come out and vote. Like, okay, what's the essence of coming out and vote? Just like what we've had all this, and they say political, what's the essence of coming out to vote? You understand? They do not own the judiciary. It's an illusion, and that illusion, on this case, by the grace of God, is going to be scattered. You will see it on this case, in this case. There is no, we've never as a people focused on the judiciary. All this one, we are focused on the executive and the legislative arm of government. Now, the Nigerian people, now is the time for us to focus on the judiciary. All those judges, every one of them will put a torchlight on them. Every one of them. All the cases, this is not the case that, oh, it's only the whole Nigeria, because it is our mandate that was stolen. I delivered my polling unit. You cannot change my result. Just put the result. We are not asking you for anything else. Put the result that came from my polling unit. Otherwise, I'm also a witness. You are also a witness. So don't be afraid, all this fear, whatever. Forget it. They don't own the judiciary. They are telling you go to court, go because they think you believe that illusion and think they own it. They don't own any.
So that was our sister giving also us and I what she thinks about the election. According to the result posted so far, less than 13 million Nigerians voted to elect a new president. Meanwhile, the country's voters register has over 93 million voters. Therefore, the questions are, what does this mean on the credibility and the legitimacy of Alhaji Tinubu? Also, according to political instability in West Africa, what picture does this paint about the future of democracy of the continent? For answers, I have been joined by Abud Aziz Basha Adegboyega. He is as a public affairs analyst in Nigeria. We also have Adeyemi Adesomojo. He is an associate and head judiciary desk Premium Times Nigeria, and also Samuel Bamidele Ojo. He is the director of corporate affairs Nigeria in Diaspora Ghana chapter. Gentlemen, you are welcome onto the show.
Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Glad to be here.
Oh yes, yes. It's been something else. We've been monitoring these elections, but let me first start with Adeyemi. You are a journalist. Concern have been raised about the conduct of elections. From your perspective as a journalist, what can you say about the general conduct of the elections and its outcome. So,
Okay. Thank you very much, listeners and viewers everywhere in the world. Uh, Before I go on, let me thank you for the opportunity to speak on this program. So now talking about the issue you have just raised, uh, the just concluded presidential and national assembly elections in Nigeria and the outcomes are actually a mixed bag of disappointment and hope, and I'm going to take them one after the other.
okay,
Disappointment in the sense that weeks, months to this election, we've got assurances from the electoral body, the INEC, Independent National Electoral Commission, that everything was going to be perfectly done in the election. And of major concern was the issue of uploading of results to the server that is being hosted by INEC. As early as November 2022, that's about 3 months ago, there were rumors that INEC was going to abandon that particular aspect of the exercise.
all right,
And INEC came with a very strongly worded statement assuring Nigerians that there will be prompt uploading of results to its server immediately after the results are counted at the various polling units. They said, as they said in that statement, that such was done in more than 105 elections, off-cycle elections that have been conducted since 2020. So that was the assurance Nigerians had about the election. And the international observers too, or everybody was upbeat to have a perfectly done election. Then we got to the election day, we found a situation where INEC could not even deploy electoral materials, even within Abuja City. There were instances where elections could not start from 2 p.m. in some parts of Abuja, which is accessible. I mean, all parts of Abuja are easily accessible. So we heard of places where INEC officials claimed that they didn't have enough electoral materials, no ballot papers. There were instances where there were no even deployment, no officials came to certain polling units. So all of these logistical issues really eroded people's confidence in the entire exercise. Then we got to when, at the stage of collation of results and announcement of results, when INEC was supposed to start uploading the results to the IREF, which is like the database that they have, it couldn't happen almost 24 hours after the exercise was concluded. So all of this really dashed a great hope that Nigeria had in the exercise. But like I said, it's not all bad for the election. There were aspects of the election that really gave hope that Nigeria's democracy is taking deeper root, which is the kind of outcomes that emanated from the exercise, where we had unprecedented and unforeseeable upsets,
right,
like the Lagos election. Like one of the commentators that you played her voice said,
right,
Lagos was the stronghold of the president-elect since 1999. It's unthinkable that a Tinubu and APC, a
right,
ruling party, both at the state level and the federal level, could lose that state to a party that was barely known 8 months ago. And we had not just that, we had a lot of sitting governors, former governors, losing elections. These were things that were unthinkable.
right.
So I will conclude by saying that it's a mixed bag of disappointment and hope for the electoral process in Nigeria.
Okay, so we looking at the process, also looking at the irregularities that occurred with the ballot papers and papers being missing and people having the results not coming out at the appropriate time. Are these irregularities? Are this something that happens always whenever there is an election in Nigeria?
Yes, they always happen. But the only difference in this election cycle is that it is the first time technology is being deployed
Okay.
across polling units
I
at the
think
national level.
yeah, you are talking about technology. We'll get back to you on that. I want to reach out to Mr. Samuel. Mr. Samuel, how are you doing? You are so relaxed. Mr. Samuel, can you hear me? Mr. Samuel, can you hear me? I think Mr. Samuel's phone has freeze him up. So, Mr. Ayedemi will still continue with you because Mr. Samuel's phone has freezed him up. Observers have raised concern about transparency of the electoral process. From where you sit, you know, Nigeria and Ghana and South Africa, if you want to talk about longevity in democratic process, we come as one. Now, from where you sit, how do you see this process? Is there a future? Is there a hope for the generation to come?
Okay. There is a future. For instance, Nigeria, uh, we've had a series of incursion into our democratic processes that have truncated the democratic processes over the years since independence in 1960. So this Fourth Republic that we are in, that started in 1999, is the longest that we have had. As a matter of fact, we've had 7 elections, once interrupted, to elect national leaders and leaders at national level. So that alone gives a lot of hope that we are actually making progress. And if you look at Nigeria's election over the last, since 2015, for instance, we've seen a progressive, incremental progress in the conduct of election. Unlike, if you look back to 1999, 2003, 2007, where, for instance, in 2011, 2007, for instance, we conducted election in Nigeria where ballot papers were not even numbered. And the man who won the election then, the presidential election, even had to admit that the election that brought him to office was flawed. And when it was put through judicial test, he escaped narrowly because the Supreme Court panel that sat on that case split into 2. There was 4 who ruled in his favor, and there were 3 members of the panel who said the election should be nullified. That was the closest Nigeria ever got to having an election that was a presidential election that was nullified by the court. So if you look at it from then, now we use technology, and the first thing that we achieve is to sanitize the voter register, because without credible voter register, there is nothing you can do. In the dark days before now, we had a voter register that had all sort of, in fact, at the time, there was Mike Tyson on our voter register. So, if you look at where we started and where we are today,
Are you
we've gone a lot.
are you saying we had Mike Tyson on the voters register? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, yes, yes. All sort of characters, all fucked up. I just mentioned that one. There are sort of names that were trees, that were cops in
Yeah.
our voter register and in pre-2015. So, we have got to a stage now where we have a very clean voter register, where everybody on the voter register can be verified. In fact, weeks before the election, months before the election, INEC had to paste the voter register across polling units. Now people came up and said, "See, this person has died. This person has died," and INEC had to respond and remove those names and that's why we got the figure of about 3 million naira, 18 million naira voters that you mentioned. So it was cleaned to that level. So this offers a lot of hope that we are heading somewhere. Only that everybody, journalists, CSOs, and regional bodies and national bodies need to be vigilant, because we are still in a stage that the process is still fragile, and we can easily slip back, as we have seen recently in various West African countries where there is some sort of democratic rollback. So we are in a fragile state, but we are actually moving forward. And I think that all it takes is for everybody to, to lend hands of support to ensure that we continue to prop up democratic governance in Nigeria and the rest of Africa.
Yeah, honestly, we are having technical challenges with the network because your line is breaking. But well, I would say that with your location and position where you are yours is far better off because the other participants who are supposed to join us on the program, their network is just fluctuating, so I can really see them in the in the studio, but it looks like you have won the day. So therefore, I'm going to continue to give you more questions. Now, let's talk about this technology stuff thing. Have you raised issue
Okay.
about Nigeria administration, this administration, the previous administration to say, or maybe they are not yet out. They try to infuse the synergy of technology. How did you see this whole technology played in this recent elections?
Yeah, the use of technology is actually a master stroke in Nigeria's election. And the journey actually started in 2015 when what was called, that's the former INEC chairman, introduced what was called a smart card. But the introduction of smart card reader then is used for accreditation, but it wasn't recognized by the Electoral Act, which is the principal law which our elections are conducted are based, conduct of our elections are based. So in 2015, it was a sort of option because it didn't have legal backing. So INEC just used it, but it didn't make so much of impact. But even at that, it was the first election that was conducted with technology, and it was the election that saw an incumbent president losing an election for the first time in Nigeria. So the journey started from that point. But in 2022, there was a giant leap, a huge leap in introducing technology into our elections, and which was in 2022, the law, this electoral act was amended, and it introduced technology, the use of beavers, bimodal verification and accreditation system, beavers, for accrediting voters. Then we also have what we call the IREV, where results from polling units where the elections are conducted are supposed to be transmitted immediately after the results are announced at the level of the polling units. So we've got to that level, and in this election, like I said earlier, the use of this technology has been tested in off-cycles elections in two state elections. We had one in Ekiti, we had one in Osun, and there were also other by-elections and parliamentary elections where this technology has been used, and they were used successfully. And for the first time, many Nigerians attested to the fact that even though there were logistical issues, there were issues here and there, it greatly reflected the will of the voters in that election. So that was the hope that many Nigerians had coming to this election in 2023. So it's actually a master stroke, because as bad as the conduct may be, if you could see for the first time in Nigeria, where you have some reasonable figures. In some of these states in part of Nigeria, you hear very outrageous figures coming from votes, in numbers of votes coming from different parts of Nigeria. But this time, we've seen how figures have been more reasonable and more acceptable coming from different parts of Nigeria. Like a state like Borno that has been ravaged by terrorism since 2010. You could see, in 2019, 2015, you will hear figures of over 1 million voting, 1 million voters coming out to vote. But and in this election, you hardly had even the totality of votes received by various candidates in these states were not up to 1 million, except in Kano, where we have over 1 million. So, I mean, it has sanitized the election the election to a very, very large extent. And we hope that INEC will use the next week election, which is the governorship election in 28 states, to actually prove Nigerians, to regain its credibility that yes, INEC can be trusted, and the taxpayers' money that have been invested in procuring this technology to sanitize the Nigerian selection is not actually wasted, and hopes also is not wasted in INEC.
Anyway, I mean, in fact, I'm still waiting for Mr. Solomon so that he can give me some statistics about the opinion of our brothers and sisters who are in the diaspora, what they envisage about the Nigerian elections. Now, there is a text message coming from South Africa, and I want us to look at that. He says that it's Ghana News GH. This is Felix from South Africa. Did Timbuktu actually win the elections based on the electoral rules of Nigeria? But before that, I want to get Mr. Samuel. Mr. Samuel, how are you, sir? Your network has
I'm
been.
doing very good.
And I want to give you the chance before I lose you again. Now,
I
let's
think
talk
so.
about our brothers and
I think so.
sisters. Let's talk about our brothers and sisters in the diaspora. Since you are the one representing them. What is their mind concerning the elections that took place in Nigeria? What is their stand? Mr. Samuel, can you hear me?
Well,
Yes.
well, let's
Mr. Samuel, can you hear me? It looks like we are losing Mr. Samuel again. It's quite very, very difficult. I know the network situation is not about the whole system, but maybe the location where you are. There's a lot of buffer, so therefore it's creating a lot of problem. I'm going to kick him out of the studio so that he can rejoin us back into the studio. But before, let me go back to you. Let me come back to you, Mr. Adeyemi. So, with what you have observed as a journalist, and with the trend of the irregularities, is there a hope in the future for our democratic process when it comes to elections?
Yes, I've said it before that there is hope, actually. But if you look at the conduct of this election, you see,
You know
like
what?
we've mentioned,
I
that
mean, hold on. Just hold on down there.
okay.
I was able to grab Mr. Bashir. Mr. Bashir, it's been very difficult to get you on the line because your phone keeps on fluctuating. I can't get you. Mr. Bashir, tell me, what do you make of the elections that took place just within this week? Mr. Bashir, can you hear me? You are live. Can you hear me? Mr. Bashir, can you hear me? He's gone off. Well, today we are going to have that serious challenge. Um, please just proceed. You were answering a question before Mr. Bashir came online. I wanted to just give him the opportunity to speak something about elections, but it looks like he's still having problem with his network. Please, will you just proceed?
I remember you asked me whether they are giving all the irregularities that have
Yes.
been observed during the conduct of this election, whether there is any hope. And I said there is hope, actually. Because if you look at it, apart from, we highlighted the issue of logistical issues. We talked about the glitches and the use of technology. And there's also another aspect of it, which is security, which also plays a major role in eroding the credibility of this election. If you look at in different parts of the country, in Lagos and Rivers State, we heard of voter repression, where thugs were deployed to scare voters away, where people were told that if you are voting for certain candidates, you will not be allowed to vote. So this presents a lot of issues, and if you look at that aspect of it, you cannot but divorce it from the general climate of insecurity in the country, where police and other security agencies appear to be helpless in
Right.
handling security situations in the country. For instance, banditry, kidnapping are issues, terrorism are issues that have gone on, that have ravaged different parts of the country in an alarming rate in the last 2-3 years. And police and various security agencies appear to be helpless. So conducting an election under such climate, you wouldn't expect things to go on so smoothly. So we had issues of voter repression where thugs scared voters away. where ballot electoral materials were snatched away. So this presents a lot of security issues that need to be addressed. And I talked about the issue of the introduction of technology, the need for uploading, immediate prompt uploading of results into the INEC server. This is another issue. INEC has said that they are investigating what really happened, but we've not known. So we hope that going into this second lap of the election on Saturday, where the governorship elections will hold in 36 states, I mean, it presents a lot of opportunity, great opportunity for INEC to really prove that, oh, yes, we can actually conduct credible election. I think that election will go a long way in how we are going to see future elections in Nigeria, and whether we will still have hope that things can get better and we can conduct more credible election. That will be determined in the next 1 week.
But we did see some, I'll use the word unconfirmed. We did see some unconfirmed WhatsApp videos with election papers being stanched in a room background, people putting their thumbs, etc., etc. And I know some of these things do happen down in Africa. We did see some of all those things. And I know it's a very big country with a lot of population, and I know it's a lot of pressure on the security services, but I don't know how we can eliminate some of those things. Is there any advice you can give?
Yes, yes. Like we said, technology or no technology, that has always happened in Nigeria, and I don't see it go away soon. Because if apart from the issues of technology, we have the issue of desperation among the Nigerian political class and the level of impunity that defines some of the things that we do, especially our public officials. So Nigeria is is a state where public offices appear to be what they call juicy. So political class are so desperate in coming to power, and it's so easy for them to deploy all of these people to help them to rig elections in that form. But I think the hope will come if we strengthen our judiciary, because you've heard from virtually everybody, particularly the winning candidate and members of his camp, telling them to go to court, telling the losing candidates to go to court to challenge the outcome of the election. That itself raises a lot of questions, because if I may use the word, the Nigerian judiciary is on trial. We've seen decisions coming from the court that far below the expectation of the public. So I think we lie in our judiciary. If the judiciary can stand tall and take decisive action, be decisive in determining the credibility of this, because if you look at those thumb printing, those illegal thumb printing that you talked about,
Right.
there are things that shouldn't be able to stand the test of judicial scrutiny. Yeah, because this is an election that is conducted based on technology. So it is so easy to determine if you take that to court to say that no, this is not a legitimate vote, this is not a legitimate ballot. But unfortunately, things are not always the same way you see it when it gets to court. So I think our hope lies in the judiciary. The judiciary can be very firm and say the truth, and help us to even expose the flaws in this election process. Then anybody knows that if you rig election, if you thumbprint illegally, you are just wasting your time, because at the time the issue gets to court, the court will kick you out. So, for instance, in the last 1 week, like I mentioned the issue of offsets that took place in some parts of the country. We've now seen the last 1 week, we've now seen contestants who appear to be arrogant, who appear not to care about what the voters felt about them. Now, in the last 1 week, coming out to beg for vote, to apologize to voters. So it really, if we continue to have a sanitized election, a credible election, and
Right.
complemented by very affirmative decision, a decisive action by the judiciary, we are going to get better.
All right. I'm going to be asking some few questions, but let me just read the text message because it looks like our other participants will not be able to feature in today's live program because I would have loved Bashar to come in here so that both of you will battle it because I understand intelligent is telling that Bashar, but let's look at this text message. Do Nigerians have faith in the judiciary now that Peter Obi and Otikul are going to court? You see, can we have faith? Can we have faith? What is the statistics? Can the statistics tell us that we can have faith in the judiciary? We cannot assume anything, but do we have faith in the judiciary since they are an arm of the government?
I must be sincere. The
Yes.
faith of Nigerian public, the confidence of Nigerian public is at its lowest ebb in the history of this country at the moment. For instance, since the year 2020, of course, the Nigerian judiciary has faced that confidence crisis over a long period of time. But that has been more pronounced in the last 3 years. Let me put it that way, 3 years, and even recently. So the truth is that the Nigerian public today does not have faith in the Nigerian judiciary. The laws are unpredictable. The precedents that are supposed to be the binding factor, that are supposed to be the binding forces of the decision, that are supposed to guide or point the judiciary to where it should go to, appear to have been disregarded in a number of cases that we have been decided by even the Supreme Court of Nigeria in the last few years. So, but the truth is that there seems to be no other channel where you can ventilate your grievances concerning the election. If you say you want to protest, yes, protest is within the right of everyone, but the protest can never get you electoral victory. So the option is to go to the court, and we must definitely have faith in our judiciary. All you need to do is, going forward, we as Nigerians, as citizens, must learn how to, just as we hold our politicians accountable, we also have to learn how to hold the judiciary accountable about his decisions, about his conduct, about how they discipline their erring members. Because that has been an issue in Nigeria. There has been that sense among Nigerians that if a judge commits an infraction, because the Nigerian Judicial Council, which is the body that handles disciplinary issues concerning judges in Nigeria, a lot of issues are swept under the carpet, and that's where the problem starts from. If the judiciary, the NJC, that's the Nigerian Judicial Council, the body that is saddled with the responsibility of sanctioning judges, of appointing judges, if they can rise up to the occasion and sanitize these processes of appointment and promptly take decision on disciplinary issues concerning judges, then judges will feel obliged to do what is right. So it's a major issue in Nigeria today where an ordinary man in the street does not have any form of confidence in the judiciary, and that is what is inspiring a lot of acts of impunity that I've mentioned. I mean, where the judiciary works, where the law works, it can be heard that a group of persons, 4 or 5, will move into a polling unit and snatch ballot boxes and electoral materials in the full glare of the public. Where judiciary works, where there is high confidence in judiciary, that can never happen. So Nigerians must now focus on the judiciary, hold the judiciary accountable to ensure that any infractions that they commit does not get away without being punished.
Thank you so much. In fact, that's a very, very topic that you've raised, holding the judiciary accountable. And it's not only Nigeria, but I think the whole of Africa, because it's not supposed to be a problem, but it is a problem. Because when we look at elections, not only in Nigeria, in other countries, even in Togo, in Benin, in Ghana, in Ivory Coast, I mean, all over. It's the judiciary supposed to be an arm of the government, but it looks like, I'm not saying that they are they are bad people, but some of their rulings and passing recently when it comes to democratic process and elections, it's a heartbreak, it's an heartache. So if you can tell me, what are the Nigerian people saying in spite of the results? What are the people, the Nigerian people, what are they saying now?
Yes, Nigerians have realized that they do not have any. I mean, majority of many Nigerians who actually, because if you look at the election, the result of the election, you could see that this is the first time in Nigeria where we will be having a president that is elected by the minority votes. From 1999 to this particular moment, every president that has been elected has scored more than 50% of the votes. Mr. Tinubu is going to be the first Nigerian president that is elected based on minority votes, by minority votes. So what it means that in the votes, in the election that is just conducted, majority of the voters that cast their ballot in this election were against Mr. Tinubu. So it is right to say that considering the fact that 2 or 3 major candidates in the election who polled this larger chunk of the votes are saying that the election was rigged. So by that extension, it is right to say that majority of Nigerians actually feel that this election is flawed. So, and if you have that understanding, then, sorry, can you remind me your question again? Sorry.
Yeah, if it's Nigeria is a giant. I think hold on again. I'll get back to that question, but I think Mr. Samuel is in the air. Mr. Samuel, can you hear me?
I can.
The network is so something, but we will try. Samuel, can you hear me, Samuel? The network is down. All right. It looks like, as I've always said, wait a minute, you have won the day. I don't know where you are standing in Ghana. I don't know where you are standing in Nigeria. I don't know how powerful your computer is, but it looks like you have won. You've kicked them
The
all
God,
out of the
the
studio.
God of the God of internet is with me.
The God of internet is with you. I like that. The God of
Yeah.
internet. I'm going to put this one down. The God of internet is with you. Now, in fact, some of us in the diaspora, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that corruption is only in Africa. Corruption is everywhere. But sometimes, even in an election, where we see a little kind of alleged corruption, it's just in the misery. Some of us, our heart gets broken. Most of us in the diaspora, some of the media company, when we see things like this happening in Africa, where Africa is the land of this earth, and it's like we cannot just get this thing right. So again, we ask ourselves whether if democracy, the democratic process, is what is good for us. We have been on this path for almost, I think Nigeria has been on this democratic process for almost about 20 something years. But we look back and realize that, can we say that we are making a headway? I know the politicians and the journalists will try to look good before the camera and say we are making a process, we are making a progress. But in our heart of heart, are we making that headway? Or we are just deceiving ourselves, pretending that all is well? Beside me.
Well, to answer your question, straight off, I believe that democracy is good for Africa, it's good for Nigeria. But what I would rather advise is that we can look inward to see what form of democracy we actually, or how we wish, how we could execute our own democracy in Nigeria. Not necessarily how UK puts its, I mean, UK and the United States, which are the good examples of democracy that everybody looks up to, do not exactly have the same system of government. So we can actually look inward to see how do we execute our own democracy? How do we how do we put structures? What are the structures that we can put in place that that align with the realities on ground? So we can look inward to see how we can do that. One of the major problems that we face in Nigeria, for instance, which many people have raised concern, is about the how public offices in Nigeria have become too attractive. So everybody wants to hold public office just because of the perks that are there. So we can look inward to say, and if you look at most of all these issues that we are talking about, rigging of election, there are things that are done with stolen funds. People, the way people rig election, retain themselves in power through the funds they have stolen from the public. So we can look into that and see how do we reduce these incentives in government. Do we make our parliament, for instance, a part-time thing? Or Nigeria, for instance, is said to be Nigerian parliamentarians are said to be the highest paid in the world. I don't know how true is that, but so if we can look at this and say, how much of this do we have to cut in the earnings of our parliamentarians? I mean, there's no doubt that democracy is great for any people in the world, but how do we execute it in your home, on your soil? That's what really matters. We cannot expect to run our own democracy exactly how the UK runs it, or the United States. But we can learn, we can pick from there, from here and there, to put our own structure in place on how we can execute our own democracy. So,
Honestly, honestly, I just want to say that you just landed on the vision of this network, that we need to really speak about the kind of democracy that we are practicing in Africa. And we all know that it is not working for us. We've been doing this for 20 years, 30 years, and it's not working. You look at so many of these countries in West Africa, East Africa, in South Africa, and it's not really working. But we pretend it is working because we want to fit. We want to just tick the boxes and let it fit. So what I can suggest, or what I can propose, that, and if we can all go back in a month's time, I'll be able to speak to my team back home, Carlos. Then we'll be able to grow some fine minds. I would love you to be on the team so that next month we can have this deliberation, have this discussion concerning democracy in Africa, so that we can. I think you went off, so let me just repeat it again. I want to have you back on this show, and we'll have other fine minds on this show, and then we'll also have some minds from the diaspora, so that we'll look at democracy in Africa, so that we can put our minds together and see that if it needs to be reformed, then, because we have tried this for 20 years and it's not working, and I don't think it's going to work in the next 50 years, because for what I saw in Ghana's election, what I saw in Nigeria's election, and what I'm yet to see in Togo's election, it's still going to be the same story. No matter how much we try to sugarcoat it, it would be the same story. So I think let's make this a theme, so that we can really bring the fine minds, and let's talk about this, and let's campaign on this, so that by doing this, maybe the leaders down there will hear, and then they'll do something about it. What do you say about it, my brother?
that's great. That's great. What I see is that where the aspect of this point that you raised that I agree with is that though yes, Nigeria has practiced democracy for the last 20 years, or over 20 years, since 1999. That's about 24 years. To be 24 years in May. But the truth is that we have yet to imbibe democratic values and democratic ethos. That is a major, major problem. For instance, in Nigeria today, we have a president who can whimsically snub the order made by the highest court of the land without consequence. I mean, early February, there was this, you are you have been following this issue in Nigeria about this cash crunch, which was created by a policy that Nigeria introduced sometimes last year about designing the currency notes. And because of the disastrous implementation of the policy, it has led to scarcity of banknotes in Nigeria, where over 60% of the citizens are unbanked in an economy that is largely driven by cash, where people largely, or in a country that is driven by the informal sector. And we have a government which introduced what seems to be like a cashless economy, and they wanted to will that to happen within 3 months. And this has caused a lot of disruption in the system across board. So we are grappling with this. So, and the Supreme Court, sometime in February, said that, see, suspend this policy. And the naira notes that we have withdrawn from the circulation, restore them so that people can feed, people can buy medicine, people can do their businesses, small businesses along the streets and everywhere. But the Nigerian president just saw it as some people ranting somewhere. I mean, this is a decision that came from the highest court of the land. And in the final judgment of the case on Friday, the Supreme Court affirmed that order, and in the final judgment and said that the withdrawal of those currencies should be reversed, and those old versions of the currencies that we have redesigned should remain legal tender till the end of 2023. It's about 2 days now. There has never been any action taken on the Supreme Court order. So if you look at it, we've not really imbibed the ethos of democracy. We only say that we run democracy, but we only adhere to it when it's convenient for us. But the good thing about it for Nigeria, and I insist that, yes, as ugly as it is now, we are making some little progress. And for instance, this is the first time since 1999 that we are having an election that a former military dictator is not participating. So for instance, since 1999, we have had, in 1999 to 2007, we were ruled by a former dictator, a former military general. From 2007, our current president participated in that election, though he lost. So in 2015, he participated, a former dictator, and won. 2019, the same thing. So this is the first election we are having since then that we didn't have a military dictator participating in the election. So we hope that perhaps when we install, when we get rid of all these former military chiefs in our elections, we may perhaps begin to imbibe all this democratic ethos. And we perhaps could see improvement in entrenchment of the rule of law, obedience to court orders, and respect and promotion of human rights. So I still believe that though our progress may be little, may be marginal, but I think no matter how small, we are making some little progress.
Thank you so much, my big brother. And then, as I've said, that we're all going to go back and then come back again next month on this particular issue concerning democratic process in Africa. I'll speak to my team to reach out to you so that we can see how best we can synergy. We'll also coordinate you with other people from other African countries who share the same opinion, the same mind, because it's very important. Because if there's going to be development, if there's going to be some progress in all the social amenities, I think that the African people and then African leaders must understand the requirement in democracy and then work with the principles that goes with democracy. Thank you so much, Mr. Aye Ade. The name, don't worry, I will get everything. Just give me 6 months. That was Mr. Adeyemi Ade Somojo. He is an associate, he's associate and a head.
Assistant editor.
Okay, editor and
Yeah.
judiciary decks premium times Nigeria. And I want to say that we thank you so much. You are the second Nigeria to be on our network, and
Oh,
this is
that's
not going to be
fantastic.
the last. You're going to be here. You're going to be part of our team. So that whenever anything comes up in Nigeria, you're going to first person I'm going to pick the phone and call you so that you give me an update. That I want you
No
to assure.
problem.
But I know I'm going to get you back here next month on
No
issues
problem.
pertaining the democracy. We are also supposed to
Anytime.
be joined, yes, we are also supposed to be joined by Abdulaziz Bashar Adegboyage. He is a public affairs analyst in Nigeria. And then also, we missed Mr. Samuel Bamidele Ojo. He is a director of corporate affairs Nigeria in diaspora Ghana chapter. Unfortunately, they couldn't make it because their network was a problem. But we just thank God so much that our own brother was able to fill in the gap, even though I gave him so many shots. But he was giving so many shots, but he was able to shoot all those shots, and then he made the program so lively. So please, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Martin Pettigol, and I'm streaming live this very moment from Pennsylvania, and this is Mozatus Media. We are so sorry for the network problem. It's always like that. If you want to stream from other along other continents, these are some of the things that we go through. But we're working hard to always make sure we bring you guys one of the best news, political affairs. Until we meet again in a month's time, see you again. And we are just going on a recess for just 1 month and we'll be back. God bless you. Stay tuned. We might have a reggae bash on Thursday night. We've been able to speak to some few folks. They've given us the right to play their music. Big corporation like UB40, Unemployment Benefit 40, called Chakumbulu, the late called Chakumbulu, Joseph Hayes. We've been given the right to play their songs. And then our own big brother in Ghana, Shashamale. We're going to feature all those songs. And then Burning Spear. So please just stay tuned. Thursday is going to be wow. Thursday night, pure reggae. We are still in Black History Month, even though it's supposed to be a month celebration. But to this studio, it's going to be a year celebration. God bless you all. And until that day, my name is Martin Pedro. See you on Thursday.